Now, have you ever thought that when a new iPhone comes out, it's going to be the same old story, same design, same feel, just a new name and a higher price tag? Yeah, that's exactly what I thought when I first unboxed the iPhone 17. But after a month of actually living with it, not testing it, not spec sheet comparing it, I realized that this thing isn't just another small upgrade. Judging from my personal experience, it's the first iPhone in almost 10 years that actually feels like it respects your money. It's reasonably priced, it cuts almost no corners, and somehow still feels premium in every way that matters. And the wild part is that even without the extra camera and any slight redesign, when I'm using it day to day, scrolling, editing, taking photos, or replying to texts, I genuinely can't tell the difference between this and my iPhone 17 Pro Max besides the size. The smoothness, the display, the way it moves through apps is almost identical. And that's what makes the iPhone 17 feel much more different compared to the 16, the 15, and even the 14. Because for once, the quote-unquote regular iPhone isn't the one that you settle for, it's actually the one that you want. So in this video, we're going deep. After 1 month of using it as my main phone, from long days of filming to random late night scroll sessions, I'm breaking down everything that Apple got right, everything that they still need to fix, and why this might secretly be the best value iPhone that Apple's made in a decade. But before we dive in though, if you love honest reviews with zero fluff, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and follow me on Twitter and Instagram for all of the behind the scenes updates and early impressions on upcoming tech. Now look, not every device is perfect, and even though I've been impressed with the iPhone 17 overall, there are a few little things that I've noticed after a month that remind you that this is still tech and not magic. Now, about once every 2 weeks, I get this random glitch, nothing crazy, just small stuff like animations freezing for a second or the screen not responding right away. And honestly, it was so infrequent that it's not that bad, but it's still there. Then there's the connection. There were a few moments where I was on the phone with my dad and out of nowhere he couldn't hear me. At first, I thought it was a network thing, but after comparing it with my iPhone 17 Pro Max, I realized that the signal on the regular 17 can be a bit weaker in certain spots. It's nothing deal breaking, but it's one of those things that remind you that even with Apple's reputation for polish, you're still going to run into some minor hiccups here and there. But aside from that, I've got to give Apple credit where credit is due. They made a genuinely great phone this year, one that checks almost every single box. The performance, the display, the build, it all just works. And again, the best part is that the base iPhone isn't a phone that you settle for anymore. It's not the only one that you buy because you can't afford the Pro. It's the one that you buy because it's actually enough this time. Now, the iPhone 17 feels familiar, but in the best way possible. If I'm being honest, Apple did not reinvent the wheel here. Instead, they polished it. The moment you pick it up, you can tell that this phone was built to feel balanced. It's light enough to handle one-handed, but still has that reassuring weight that makes it feel premium. And after a month of daily use, pocketing it, tossing it on desks, and even using it caseless for a bit, it's held up really well. No major scratches on the back, no weird fading around the edges, and the matte finish does a great job at hiding fingerprints. The edges have this slightly curved satin feel that's easier to grip, and it doesn't dig into your palm since it has smooth edges instead of a boxy frame. And I feel like when it comes to comfort and design with the 17, it's like they finally found that sweet spot between comfort and luxury. It's also incredibly refined when it comes to durability. I've accidentally dropped it once. It was a pretty heart-stopping moment. It was on concrete, but surprisingly, it survived without a single dent or scratch. The ceramic shield front glass is still doing its job, and while it is a fingerprint magnet under harsh light, there's really nothing that a quick wipe with a microfiber cloth can fix. And another thing that I really appreciate about the 17 is how normal it feels in hand. The way it fits your grip, the way the buttons have a pretty nice click. I would say in terms of premiumness, the iPhone 17 does not feel like a cheap phone. So if you're the kind of person who values how a phone feels as much as how it looks, this is one of Apple's most well-balanced designs in years. It's minimal, it's durable, and it manages to look premium without shouting about it. Now moving on to battery life, the iPhone 17 has been surprisingly solid. In my day-to-day use, which is usually a mix of filming clips, scrolling through social media, answering emails, and watching a few YouTube videos, I've been averaging around 6 to 7 hours of on-screen time, and I still end most of my days with about 20 to 25% left. So I would say that combined with downtime, it takes me usually around 13 to 14 hours to put my phone back on the charger. And another thing that I like that a lot of people look over is how much USB-C is just way more convenient. I can use the same cable for my MacBook, my iPad, and my iPhone 17, and it's one of those small quality of life changes that you don't really realize how much you need it until you have it. I use a 30-watt charger to charge my 17, and I've been getting 0 to 50% in about 25 minutes, and a full charge in just over an hour. That's pretty good for me, but with MagSafe, I did notice that something was pretty odd. It definitely felt slower than the last 2 years. Around the 80% mark, the phone tends to warm up and charging speeds dip a little bit. It's not a big issue, but it's definitely noticeable when you're in a rush. But overall though, I can confidently say this: the iPhone 17 nails battery life where it matters the most, and consistency. You don't get that sudden drop off at the end of the day, and you're not babysitting your charger every few hours. It's not the absolute best battery that Apple's ever made, but it's definitely one of the most reliable ones that I've used. Now moving on to cameras, the iPhone 17 has really impressed me, but it's not perfect. You've got two 48 megapixel lenses this year, a main and an ultra wide, and for everyday use, this setup absolutely holds its own. Photos come out sharp, colors are rich but not oversaturated, and skin tones don't look yellow like on older iPhones. Apple's found that balance between clean and natural without making everything look overly processed. In daylight, this camera shines. The main lens captures depth and texture beautifully, while the ultra wide gives you those dramatic perspectives without the usual warping at the edges. And I've also been taking a ton of street photos, and honestly, I've stopped double checking my shots. It's that reliable. Point shoot and I'm pretty much good. But here's where things start to show some limits. First of all, it's only digital zoom and it's very limited. Details soften, colors lose contrast, and it just doesn't hold that crisp clarity the Pro Max's telephoto lens can deliver. It's not bad, but it's definitely basic. And I'll be honest, besides the size, this was the only area that made me miss my iPhone 17 Pro Max. When you're used to that 5 times optical zoom, any flexibility that it gives you for framing or travel shots, going back to the 17 feels very limiting. It's clearly not built for zoom enthusiasts. It's kind of built for everyday shooters who just want good results pretty fast. But besides that, moving on to the video side, Apple still holds the crown. This phone records some of the most stable, clean, and color accurate footage that you'll find on a non-pro device. Whether I'm walking down the street or recording product B-roll handheld, the stabilization feels unreal. It's smooth, cinematic, and free of that jitter that you get on most phones. The color science is consistent across lenses too, which is something that not every brand gets right. You can switch from the main to the ultra wide and the quality stays pretty good. And I would say overall, the iPhone 17 might be the best in terms of value, especially for the camera. So my overall takeaway is that the iPhone 17's camera is dependable, natural, and seriously impressive for its price point. The zoom is its weakest link. It's fine, but it's just not special. But for everything else, photos and videos come out looking professional with minimal effort. Now moving on to performance, the iPhone 17 is a powerhouse in disguise. It's running Apple's new A19 chip, and even though it's not technically as efficient as the Pro models, the difference in real-world use is almost impossible to notice. And even heavier tasks like editing short clips or batch processing photos don't even make this phone break a sweat. And although I had been impressed with the performance, I still was a little disappointed that only the Pro models were getting vapor chamber cooling, especially when I expected the iPhone 17 to pretty much match almost everything. But in real world use, it really didn't heat up that much. The aluminum frame actually helps dissipate warmth surprisingly well. Sure, it does get a little warm when you're recording 4K video for extended periods or gaming for over an hour, but it never really crosses that ouch my hands burning territory. There's no major thermal throttling, no performance dips, and no frame rate drops even in longer sessions of demanding games like Genshin Impact or Call of Duty Mobile. And for anyone wondering about benchmarks, yes, it's strong there too. The A19 chip scores just shy of the A19 Pro and Geekbench, but in daily life, it feels identical. Launching apps, switching cameras, scrubbing through footage, it all happens with zero lag. So yeah, even without vapor chamber cooling, Apple pulled off something really impressive. Now, one of the biggest upgrades this year, and honestly one that was long overdue, is that Apple finally gave the base iPhone a 120Hz refresh rate. And yeah, just like I thought, in real life, it does make a difference. Scrolling through menus, switching between apps, and even just moving through your home screen, everything feels smoother. It's the kind of change that's hard to notice in short bursts, but after using it for a few days, going back to 60Hz feels dated. That being said though, this isn't some mind-blowing revelation. Apple's just catching up to what other brands have been offering for years, but it's a welcome improvement. And in my personal opinion, it gives the iPhone 17 that premium fluidity that the base models have always been missing. The display itself is excellent. It's a Super Retina XDR OLED, same family as the Pro models, and it hits up to 3000 nits of peak brightness outdoors. In practical terms, this means that you can actually see your screen in direct sunlight without cranking your brightness slider to the max. Colors look balanced and accurate. Apple's usual true-to-life tuning, though sometimes can lean a bit warm compared to something like the Galaxy S25. And for watching videos or editing quick clips, the color consistency is great. It's not overly saturated, and it doesn't overdo contrast like some Android panels do. It's just clean, realistic, and pretty easy on the eyes. Now, when it comes to speakers, they're solid. Not mind-blowing, but definitely reliable. The stereo separation is noticeable, and the vocals come through clean even at high volumes. In my personal opinion, it's great for calls, music, or even watching content without earbuds. And overall, I say that the display and the speakers on the iPhone 17 do exactly what they should. Nothing revolutionary, but nothing disappointing either. But next up, let's move on to software, because honestly, that's where my relationship with the iPhone 17 started off a little rough. Now, when I first booted up this phone and used iOS 26, I'm not gonna lie, I hated it. It felt like Apple was trying too hard to make everything look futuristic, and instead, it came off cluttered. The new liquid glass interface looked strange to me at first, too reflective, too busy, and I remember thinking, why can't Apple just keep things simple? But after a few weeks, it kind of grew on me. Once I learned how to actually customize, iOS 26 started to really look nice. The new home screen customization tools are easily the best part of this update. I can finally get my icons, widgets, and even the wallpaper tones to match perfectly, and it's even more convenient that I don't need a third-party app. So whether I'm rocking a minimal black setup or something bright and colorful, iOS 26 lets it all blend together seamlessly. And for me personally, it took iOS 18 to an extra notch. Now let's cut straight to the numbers. The iPhone 17 starts at $800 for the 256GB model. That's the same entry price that Apple charged for the iPhone 16 base last year, but this time you're getting more storage, 256 gigs compared to 128, and some features that used to be Pro only. So value wise, right off the bat, you're getting a lot for the money. And after a month with the iPhone 17, I can confidently say this: Apple finally gave the base iPhone its identity back. It's no longer the version that you settle for, it's the one that you actually want. And sure, it's not perfect. The zoom camera is average. There are still tiny software hiccups, and it's missing a few of the quote-unquote pro-level bells and whistles. But in every way that matters, whether it be performance, battery life, display, or build, it nails all the essentials. This is a phone that doesn't try to impress you with specs on paper. It just quietly gets everything right in day-to-day use. So if you've been holding on to an older iPhone and waiting for a model that feels premium without paying a pro price tag, this is it. The iPhone 17 is the most well-balanced, well-rounded iPhone that Apple's made in years. And honestly, that's not something that I thought I'd be saying about a base model. But anyway, that's been my full 1 month review. If you found this video helpful, drop a like, and don't forget to subscribe because it really does help the channel grow. Now, I've been traveling a lot lately, and honestly, my old luggage just couldn't keep up anymore. So I finally decided that it was time for an upgrade, and that's when Level 8 sent over their luminous textured 2-piece set. Now, right away, these felt completely different. They've got that clean matte finish that just looks right, and the whole build just feels premium. The wheels glide effortlessly, no wobble, no resistance, and both bags come with built-in TSA approved locks, so everything stays secure while I'm traveling. Inside, there's plenty of space. The carry-on fits my camera gear, chargers, clothes, and daily essentials perfectly, while the larger check bag has enough room for all of my clothes, shoes, and even some filming equipment when I'm traveling longer. And because both of these are made from German aluminum macrolon polycarbonate. They're both super durable, but still lightweight. And then there's the level 8 element toiletry case. It's water resistant, neatly organized, and it even has a hanging hook so I can use it anywhere. So yeah, if your luggage has seen better days like mine did, the level 8 luminous set and element toiletry case are the upgrades that you'll actually feel every single trip. So if you guys are interested in these traveling essentials, click the link in the description and comment section of today's video.